Welcome to Selling Tri-Cities, where we are selling more than homes. This project was created to share our love and passion for this beautiful part of the country that we are lucky enough to call home. We want to showcase the small businesses, the entrepreneurs, and the beauty that makes the Appalachian Highlands one of the most desirable markets in the nation. But most importantly, we want to introduce you to the people that make this area such a wonderful place to live. So join us as we sell you on our love for the Tri-Cities. We get them under contract. We've worked with your awesome realtor who's gotten you under contract. What are some no-nos during the contract
There's
period?
so many.
I can go buy a boat because Boone Lake is back up.
No boat, no car, no nothing. Just breathe, drink water, eat bread. That's it for 30 days. That's all we do. No, so what we do, it's kind of true.
Listen, they lived off of bread and water in the old days.
I know,
Like you do it for 30 days.
and wine too. They had wine.
They
too.
did have wine, yeah.
So, big thing is, it's gonna sound funny, but stay on your job, okay? Do not quit your job, okay? If you feel frustrated, your manager's being a pain in the, you know what? Stay on your job. That's happened to me, Bob. That's why we have a whole list. Every time we send a pre-approval out, we have like 12 things, or actually it's probably 20 now, things don't do. Credit cards, don't go crazy on it. Keep it like your normal spending. Don't go anything like that. Don't move money around, okay? Mm-hmm. Why does that matter? We have to paper trail everything. When we had the crash back in 15 years ago, now that came out of that crash is where's the money coming from, okay? Yeah. Before we didn't have to care about it. It's not because you're a drug dealer. We know like you're not selling drugs, but we have to see where the money's coming from. Not that you're taking a separate loan over here to buy the house over here, and then let's say things get tough. Now all of a sudden that loan payment could affect your mortgage payment. Yeah. So that's why we have to paper trail all that stuff. There's so many more we can go into. Like you said, don't buy a car. That's the biggest thing I see people do. Yeah. That comes up time and time again, especially the car payments I've seen. I saw one for $1,200 last week and scratching my head. Don't do that. Wait till after you purchase, and then you can do whatever you want on that. Just make your mortgage payment, obviously. Yeah. And so forth. So
I think there's a lot of people that get the buyer's itch. Like they bought a house, now they're like, okay, I need a new car to park in that garage.
Or furniture.
I need new furniture to put downstairs, and furniture is not cheap. So they go and buy 10 grand worth of furniture, a week before closing. So it's just important that just hold off and until closing.
Well, this ties into the credit question at the beginning too, because once you start doing that, we have to, and all lenders have to do a credit inquiry check, not another credit check, inquiry check. So if you have any inquiries from Ashley Furniture, for an example, we're going to ask about it because it's going to show up 10 days before closing. That's when we have to do that. So don't do anything like that, because if you did apply for one, and even if you got no payment for 5 years, whatever it is, we still have to document that and figure out what the payment might be. Yeah. If you got a $5,000 furniture or whatever. Yeah. Well, 5,000, it's probably 20,000 these days.
And if you have questions, just reach out to your lender. Just say, hey, I was thinking about doing X, Y, and Z. Is this okay? Can I do this? And they will say yes or no. So just make sure you always just talk to your lender in real estate before making purchases and big decisions.
Absolutely. So inspection reports, right? We've heard nightmares about them. So you get a scary inspection report. A lot of people freak out about inspection reports when they shouldn't, and a lot of times you should. So what happens at that point, and so forth? So
most realtors, they have a handful of inspectors that they have worked with over and over again. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of times, like myself, I send out a vendor list that has multiple inspectors and, just all sorts of different vendors that they can kind of reach out to. Mm-hmm. But we usually have a group of good inspectors that we've worked with. So when things like this come up, those inspectors are really quick to communicate with the buyers. So the biggest thing is don't freak out. So you get an inspection report back that there was a crack in the foundation. I think 95% of homes have a crack in the foundation. It's called settlement. Yes, there are times that it is more serious, and maybe you need a foundation specialist to come out and look at it, and that is okay too. Those can also be fixed 98% of the time. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times sellers are really negotiable when it comes to that. They know they were not aware of this problem and they're okay with fixing it. But the biggest thing is once you get that report back, get in touch with the inspector who did the report and who did the inspection, and ask them these questions. Let them kind of answer some of those things you might have. And if you have serious questions or concerns about specific things, maybe it's plumbing or it's electrical or maybe it is foundation, then at that point, we can extend your inspection period and then you can call those specialists. Again, remember, they're inspectors, they're not licensed plumbers or electricians. Their job is just to point out things that they might see and then give buyers the opportunity then to dig deeper if they feel like that's what they need to do. But a lot of sellers are okay with negotiating and fixing and repairing some of these big items because a lot of times they're just not aware of it. So don't run for the hills.
Yeah.
Communicate with your realtor. Let them
don't freak out.
Don't freak out. Let them go to bat for you. Yeah. Let them work with the listing agent on the other side. Let them do what you hired them to do, what you brought them on. They're on your team. Let them go to bat for you. But also reach out to some other licensed professionals who can help answer those questions.
Yeah, it's a house, so there's going to be stuff that's happening. I mean, it's just weather. I mean, we dropped down to 5 degrees this past week.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just going to happen. So it's a house, certain things, and 95% of the times things can be rectified and fixed and taken care of and so forth. So don't run away. Talk to your realtor about it, and then walk through the process and get it done.
As I age, I definitely get more creaky and more cracks and things happen.
I thought I heard a pop when you said that.
There was definitely pops. So not everybody ages like Gregg. That's good.
I got my own creaks and pops and stuff.
So my biggest question though too, real quick, is when do you want to lock into your rate? And then what are just a couple really quick things you can do to decrease your interest rate? Like there's, points, there's a 2-1 buy down. We're not going to get into that. If you're interested, please call us. We can really walk you through the 2-1 buy down. It's awesome. But,
So points is a big thing where, a question comes up all the time. All points is prepaid interest. So all you're doing is, let's say you have 3 rates on the board. Let's say one of them is 5.5 for an example, and that 5.5 costs 1 point. That's going to be 1% of the loan amount. Okay, so all you're doing is trying to pay more on the front end to save more on the back end. Keep in mind the average that people keep their mortgage or stay in a house is 4 to 7 years. It's actually less than that. When it comes to refinancing and so forth. So that's why it's important when you show 3 or 4 or 5 different options, show the long-term effects of it too. Hey, does it make sense to get a lower rate? Here, or pay a lot more. I'm not going to break even for a certain amount of time frame. Should I get the higher rate, keep more money in my pocket, pay for painting, furniture, something else like that? That's where you have to sit down and advise somebody and say, here's the difference here: short-term payment, cost to close, or higher payment where it's less cost to close, and show the differences short and long term. So. And
you do that for your?
Yeah, I do it all the time. I mean, we do a mortgage presentation for all of our clients. Basically, we do a video, we send it to them. 95% of them email back, hey, I'll take option 4 or 3 or whatever. But we send it to them and say, listen, take a look at this, and then call us with any questions, because a lot of times in that presentation we're going to cover all the questions because we deal with it all the time. Sure. Let's do market and its future. What do you think from the real estate side? And then we can talk about mortgage and real estate and so forth. But there's a lot of people sitting on the fence. Hey, I don't know what to do. I'm so used to being in 3% land. It's much different right now. In the last, we had the fastest, loan rate increase in the last 40 something years here. The fastest that's happened. So how do you talk to your buyers about it and so forth?
So the biggest thing is, I think, like you said, 3% land. I think most people can agree that interest rates never should have gotten that low, and we should not see them that low again. So where we're at now is actually a little bit closer. We're not even at the average interest rate. If you look at the last 30, 40 years, we're not even at the average interest rate. So I think right now, the market has shifted just for a few months. I think it's going to change again spring and summer. So it's kind of a buyer's market. So for me, it's buy now, buy now, buy now. Even with rates a little bit higher, because if a home is priced at $400, from a buyer's perspective, you actually might be able to get that home at $375. And the interest rate might be higher, but it's not that big of a difference. You wait till next summer, and we're still going to have that inventory issue and a lot more buyers in the market, especially if interest rates go down. That $400,000 house is going to cost you $450. So yeah, your interest rate might be lower, but you're actually saving more money or paying the exact same without having to be as competitive with a higher loan amount.
Well, I think a lot of people look at, okay, what's the cost right now? What's the interest rate? Get so focused on it instead of the cost of waiting. If you wait, I mean, we have analysis analysis and we can send it to you. Hey, you know, if I waited 6 months, it's going to cost, let's say, $5,000. If I waited 12 months, it's going to cost me $12,000. There's a cost of waiting. Most people don't even talk about that. And when you look at that, it's far more expensive to wait a lot of times than to buy. Don't be so focused on the rate. The rate's going to move, like I said, up and down and back and forth. So going forward, what we're telling our clients right now is, hey, inflation is starting to slow down a little bit. In the next, you know, 3, 6, 12 months, rates, we figure, no guarantees, that can be pointing towards the 5% range and so forth. So if you get the house
Which is
now,
fantastic, by the way.
yeah, exactly. I mean, so if you get the house now, gain the appreciation now, okay, because that's part of the cost of waiting when you don't, you know, purchase. Because, you know, houses are still going up. Inventory is going to be an issue for the next 3 or 4 years because of new builds not being built in the last decade. So basically, you know, buy now and then we can restructure if it makes sense down the line. If not, you're still gaining that appreciation and so forth. So
Now, very last question, it's not on this and we're gonna close it, but people always ask, they compare this market and what's going on to the crash of '08. Why is that simply just not true?
because it's a supply and demand. Okay, so let's go back into nightmare land, which was 15 years ago, and I've been doing this 20 years, so I lived through that. It was a nightmare. Basically, you had overabundance of houses out there, right? So, but then what happened is that the buyers shrunk. So basically, that was a disaster. Now, flip the script, it's completely opposite, right?
Yes.
Right now, you have people, you know, not, you know, trying to find a house and trying to put offers in. Not as crazy as it was last summer, but it could be when rates start coming back down again. So it's supply and demand. Right now, there's a high demand, very low supply. That's completely opposite than what it was with the crash.
And the Tri-Cities is one of the top emerging markets, and that's not changing anytime soon. It's a great place to be, a great place to live, to retire, to raise kids. There's a lot of reasons why this area is wonderful. So the demand, the housing demand will continue to be here. It's whether or not we can keep up with the supply. So we have a lot of builders who are buying land and building just to keep up with that supply. That is why this market is not going to crash.
Yeah, and it's a great market. I mean, I lived in Florida during the crash before. Florida is very, gets people buying second homes and doing some, different things, and eventually moving down there. Here is a much different area. You got Eastman, you got all these different types of companies and so forth. That's kind of centralized. They have 7,000 employees there. You get the medical community, pharmaceutical community. Much different market than some other places. So, and then when it did go up during the boom before the crash, it only went up a certain percentage, very small. And when it went down very small. So it's been very steady through the worst possible time, which was 15 years ago. So
you're going to see a balance. I think it's a great time to buy and a great time to sell. If you're on the fence, please reach out to your lender, reach out to your realtor. Let us walk you through some options that you might have when it comes to your loan types. 2-1 buy downs. I mean, just even as a seller, that's a great option. So please just reach out to your local professionals. That's why we're here. That's why we love doing what we do. So that way we can help you and get you into a home the best way, and also help you sell your home if you have questions. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, you can call us directly. Our contact information is coming up, and stay tuned next week for another episode of Selling Tri-Cities, where we are selling more than homes.
and sometimes wine. So
Yeah. Cheers.
cheers.